Recently, I was given a box of Amazing Story magazines from June of 1962 all the way up to the end of 1966. So I've put them up here in years. 1962, half of the issues, 1963, 1964, 1965, they went to bi-monthly, and 1966 bi-monthly. Amazing Stories, first in science fiction since 1926. In this issue alone, you see we've got Arthur C. Clarke, Henry Kuttner, Walter M. Miller Jr., and G. Peyton Wertenbacher, someone I don't know. So I've always enjoyed Jules Burt channel when he looks at some of these collectibles. I'll put a link to Jules' channel in the description for this video. I'm no Jules Burt, but let's take a look at 1962 and 1963. In part one, we're going to look at Amazing Stories from June of 1962 all the way to December of 1963. I have every consecutive issue here. So let's take a look. Amazing Stories, 35 cents. This is from June of 1962, volume 36, number 6. Amazing Stories is one of the first magazines started by Hugo Gernbach back in 1926. So in this issue, you can see we have on the cover here that we'll have a profile of Clifford Simic by Sam Moskowitz, and we have a story by Lester Del Rey. So in each of these magazines, you would be able to take a look at the index and see who had written in here. So let's see, we have Lester Del Rey, also Tom Purdom, J.G. Ballard, Passport to Eternity, and The Saintly Heresy of Clifford D. Simic. This is just before he wrote Way Station, which came out in 1963. So then each of the stories has their own art. One of the popular artists for Amazing Stories at this time was Virgil Finlay. And so as we flip through here, you can see that we have lots of stories. Here's the artwork for Passport to Eternity by J.G. Ballard. And there's some science features. There we go. There's Clifford D. Simic with his Hugo Award. And on the back of the magazine, we find an image from one of the stories and a quote. July 1962. In this issue, we have the start of a serial by Keith Laumer. This is part 1 of 3. A Trace of Memory. And let's see what else we can find here. Let's take a look at some of the art within. And the back art, rather sinister looking man. Now we're up to August 1962. Jack Vance story, profile of C.L. Moore. We also have a story by Roger Zelazny and continuing Keith Laumer's A Trace of Memory. I'm not sure what it is with cats in science fiction. I seem to come across cats quite often in science fiction. September 1962. Huh, this one's missing a little bit here of the table of contents. Ben Bova often wrote some of the fact articles in Amazing Stories. Edmund Hamilton, Sunfire. And we've got a synopsis of parts 1 and 2 of A Trace of Memory, and this is the conclusion. October 1962, Poul Anderson, and we have a profile of Henry Kuttner. In our table of contents, and our story, Escape from Orbit by Poul Anderson. That's quite an interesting image. November 1962. There's our table of contents. James H. Smits, Kate Willem, Marion Zimmer Bradley, and last for 1962, December 1962. Once again, we have a story by Marion Zimmer Bradley and Roger Zelazny. Oh, and the profile, let's see who that is. Psycho, Logical Block. Ah, Robert Block. Stay off the moon. Are enough to touch. And the back cover image. All right, let's go now to 1963. Keith Laumer has a feature story in January of 1963. There we go. See if we can find any interesting pictures. Omega, the man. Cully. It could be anything. And here's the back image. February 1963. Daniel Galou, Philip J. Farmer, and a profile of Arthur C. Clarke. In our table of contents, How Deep the Groove. Phoenix. The Smart Ones. That must be from the Phoenix. March 1963. This one has Chalky, a novelette by John Wyndham. Chalky was later made into a full novel. Once again, we have Zelazny and Lalmer and J.G. Ballard. Babylon in the Sky. Let's see if we can find that Chalky story. Star Chamber. The Sherrington Theory. Walls. There we go. There's the feature image for Chalky in this magazine. John Wyndham's fame rests on the creation of ruthless, chilling alien life. Now the British author does an about-face and holds us equally as spellbound with the story of an unnaturally empathic visitor named Chalky. Oh, and I think we have an image on the back here for Chalky as well. I'm going to put this one aside because I want to read that. Next, we have April of 1963. Notice there's a number of authors that seem to be showing up quite often, James H. Smits being one of them. And in our table of content, we see also that we have Zelazny, and we have a profile of Lester Del Rey. The Beacon to Elsewhere. The Stainless Steel Leech. There's Lester Del Rey. Cosmic Wrecker. May 1963. I have a story now by Leigh Brackett. Okay, in this issue, where is everybody? Survey of facts and theories of extraterrestrial life. The Deep Space Scrolls. Rama meant immortal, and it had been a word of terror for so long that no amount of time could erase the meaning. June of 1963. Here's our table of contents. Thomas M. Dish. The Programmed People. Eric Frank Russell, Death of a Doubter. Did Andrew Ward see the flying saucer, or did he see a man who needed to have his vision corroborated? From The Encounter by J.G. Ballard. July 1963. Redemption by Robert Young. The Programmed People. Continuation of that novel that they are publishing. I think I'm missing a little bit of a torn page there. Their senses were so numb, their reaction so dulled, that no one saw it until the creature was halfway up the hill. They were prepared for almost anything, except for what it was. August 1963. Profile of John Campbell. Table of contents. Reign of the Telepuppets. Telepuppets. Mine is the Kingdom. Harrison, Denmark. If you're watching this video and you know some of these authors, there's a lot that I don't know. For example, David Rome, the lesson for today. Let me know a little bit about these authors if you've read their work. John Rackham, Dr. Jeckers, and Mr. Hyde. Dinosaurs in Space, Always a good thing. The switch closed. It was like suicide in a way, a devil of a risk, but it worked. I felt him go. Dr. Jeckers and Mr. Hyde. Homo Aquaticus by Poul Anderson. And they're starting a complete novel by A. Bertram Chandler. There's Chandler, Anderson, Young. The Winds of If. Neutrino Astronomy by Ben Bova. The welding torch flared blindly. I realized her intention, but too late. As I tried to wrest the tool from her hands, the metal casing of the firing chamber was already cherry red. I felt, rather than heard, the whoomph of the exploding powder. October 1963, Cordwainer Smith. Drunk Boat by Cordwainer Smith. We also have Philip K. Dick, Stand By, and Roger Zelazny. Let's take a look. There's the title image for Cordwainer Smith's story. And let's take a look for the Philip K. Dick story. That one's on page 44. Stand By. Max Fisher, who hadn't worked in years, was now the president of the US. A fine thing for a union man. Here's an uproariously funny, terribly sad story of feather bedding in the future. There's Edmund Hamilton. The Prince of Liars by L. Taylor Hanson. I think very possibly I'm risking my life to speak to you because this we must face. We have a president who would not mind employing murder to obtain his objectives. That's from the PKD story. November 1963, Harry Harrison. A novelette by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Savage Pellucidar. Let's take a look at the table of contents. We have another PKD story. Piers Anthony as well. Suitable picture for an Edgar Rice Burroughs story. Wow, Quinquepedalian. Another cool image. What'll we do with Raglan Park? In the rear cover image, Looks like it's from the Edgar Rice Burroughs story. The savage beast screamed in rage and tried to scramble into the tree after Oa, but the limb he seized was too small. Rana rushed in and hit him, and they leaped away. And our last one for this video, December 1963. Another PKD story. And we have a profile of Fritz Leiber. I'm not sure, it might be Fritz Leiber. Table of contents. To Plant a Seed by Neil Baird Jr. Let's see, I think it was page 54. And PK Dix, The Days of Perky Pat. Perky Pat had everything. A sports car, a boyfriend, even an automatic garbage disposal. Then the Flukers learned about Connie Companion, who had even more. Here, in a strange guise, is a morality tale of the possible future. There's Mr. Fritz Leiber, or Lieber. The God on the 36th Floor by Herbert D. Castle. And our rear cover image. Shortly, they had ascended the ramp, popped open the lid, and they were crouching amidst the dust and rocks, searching the horizons. Timothy's heart pounded. This moment always overwhelmed him, the first instant of reaching the upstairs. Now that we've looked at 1962 and 1963, I want to read that story, Chalky, and compare it with the 1968 John Wyndham novel, Chalky. Watch for a follow-up video on 1964, 1965, and 1966. Let me know if you enjoy this type of video. Until next time, keep reading.